Hi guys, welcome to Pixel Affair. It's Kobe here, and in today's video we are going to create our own version or a new version of this particular one CD coin. So this is a video I did for the Ghana Football Awards, and in here you can see this one CD coin entering the board game. I use Redshift to render this particular one CD, but we are going to use normal Cinema 4D materials to do the same thing here. So in Cinema 4D you can see I have the same coin, and this one I use normal Cinema 4D materials to actually create this particular coin. It's nothing complicated. It's very simple, and most of the work was actually done in Photoshop and then brought into Cinema 4D. So if I actually show you, you can see it's just an extrude with a circle. The rest is just the material, and like I'm saying, most of the work was done in Photoshop before I brought it into Cinema 4D. So let's actually see how everything started in Photoshop. So in here, this is Photoshop, and in here you can see I have this black and white material, and what I did is just searched for the one CD coin, right? Let me actually solo this, hold alt and click this. You can see the one CD coin. Initially I wanted to use the grayscale value of this to actually drive the bump, but I realized it wasn't going to work, so I actually went ahead and drew my own version. So I can see I drew the this thing, and then also the one CD. All of everything was literally redrawn, and it's nothing, it's just simple. Spend some few minutes and you can recreate the whole thing. So that's basically all I did, and after that I added it like this plain white background. I made this one black and the background white. You can do it either way, either white and black or black and white. It works. So I did this for the front face, and if I come here for the back face too, I did the same thing. You can see I have like, so this is the coin. If I solo it, you can see I have, this is the coin, and now so I brought this one in. This one I didn't totally draw a whole thing. I just made it black and white, and then I went ahead and put in the text, the Ghana text and everything. You can see all of them, and after that I just saved it. So I had these two particular textures. This is for the front and this is for the back, right? Because what you are going to use it, to drive the bump of our material. So let's go into Cinema 4D and let's create a new scene and start doing the whole thing from scratch, right? So I'll come in here, and all I have to do is to create a circle. I mean, the size doesn't matter for now. I'm just showing the coin. So just a circle, and I'll make sure like it's smooth, right? So I'll increase the interpolation, the number to like enough so that it will be smooth. It doesn't matter, but then, so all I have to do is now come into our objects and look for the extrude, and I'll make the circle a child of the extrude, and now we have our shape, the shape of the coin. I'll reduce the extrude to like, say, maybe 10, and that's it. So now you have the shape of the coin. I don't want this grid, so I'll come to my filter, work plane. I don't like the grid in here. So now the first thing I'm going to create is you see the side here. Let me actually come here and see on the side here we have that lines there, right? That's the first thing we are going to create, and that one we are going to use a normal Cinema 4D material. So I'll create our material in here, new material, and I'll apply it to our extrude. Double click on the material to open it, and you come into our either of the channels. So I'll use the color for now, and in the channel surfaces down here you can see your surfaces. In the surfaces I'll use checkerboard, right? So in the checkerboard I'll set the U frequency to 0, and then the V frequency to like, say, 90, so that you have this long lines that like that. After that I'll change so I'll make sure I select the material tag on the extrude, and I'll change it from projection. I'll change it from UV mapping to flat, yeah, and you can see we have flat. So this is what we are going to use to drive the bump. So now after everything is done, I can simply come in the material, right click on the texture, and I'll say copy. Now come to bump, check bump, and I'll right click on the texture again. I'll say paste. So now if we check, you can see, let me actually bring the reflectance so that you can see now we have those lines, right? So all you have to do is now in the reflectance, I'll probably come and I'll add GGX. So the GGX is a type of reflectance that is very good for metal stuff. So I'll leave the GGX everything as default because it's fully reflective. So I'll leave it like that, and then I'll come in and I'm going to bring the Photoshop files that I saved. So I'll bring the one CD front, right, and in here I'll just drag and drop it in here, and I'll choose no, and I'll bring in the back as well. It'll ask me the same thing. I'll choose no. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'll apply it into our Cinema 4D coin, right, and I can see now it takes over the lines that we did the first material, right? So what we have to do is luckily for us in the extrude we have the front cap and the back cap, and you can simply limit this material to just the front cap. So I'll just select the material tag. I'll come to the attribute manager. You can see in selection we type in capital C1, and now you can see it has limited it to just the front side of our coin, right? So now what I'll do is I'll with the material, this thing selected, material tag selected, I'll come to the top here, the mode, and I'll change it from model mode to texture mode. And with the material tag on, I'll change the projection from UV mapping to flat as well. Now with that, I can take the scale tool and I'll scale my texture to fit right at the edge, like everything like this, right? So I'm cool with it. And the next thing, I'll make sure I'll deselect the material mode, the texture mode, and I come to model mode so that I don't mistakenly move the material. So now that I have everything set for the front here, all I have to do is now double click on the material to open it. I don't want it in the color here, so I'll do the same thing. Right click, copy, right, and I'll come into the bump, right click, and I'll paste, right. I'll make sure I'll enable the bump and I'll disable the color. So now you can see it's driving our bump, right? But what it's doing is that instead of pushing it in where the symbols and stuff are, the text and everything is actually pushing inside instead of pushing it out. So what you have to do is a simple way we can do is you see we have black point and white point. So the white point is 1 and the black point is 0. We can just flip it. So you can do the black point 1 and the white point 0. And now you can see it's pushing it out the way we want it, right? The next thing is we go ahead and do the same thing with the reflectance. So I'll come in here with the reflectance, I'll add, and I'll do the same thing, GGX, and you can see now it's our material is fully reflective, right? In the bump, maybe we can reduce it a bit to like say 10, and let's say we are cool with this, right? But you can see the coin in the middle here, it's gold and the outside is silver. So how do we do that? So what you are going to do is you are going to create a duplicate of this one. So I'll just hold Control and click and drag this, and you created another copy. And this one, I'll double click on it. I'll come into the reflectance, and you see the layer color of the GGX, which is this layer 1. You see the layer color, we change it from white to, because we want to make it a bit gold, so maybe let's change it to something like yellowish, a bit like that. Let's say we are cool with this for now. You can always come in and change it the way we want it, right? And now we apply it, but before we apply, let's go ahead and duplicate this because we did some settings in this. So with this material tag selected, I'll hold Control again, click and drag. It's close to this. You can see there is this white line that appears. If I leave it now, it has created another copy. So all you have to do is to drag this gold one right on top of the copy that we've created and leave it. And now it will inherit all the settings that we did down here. We don't have to redo everything, right? Now it has taken over and it's covering the silver part as well, but we just want it to limit it into this just to this center. All we have to do is to now double click on the material. In the alpha here, I'll enable alpha, and I'll come into the alpha. What you are going to use to drive the alpha is black and white, right? So I'll come into the alpha and I'll choose gradient. And now in the gradient, if I come into the gradient, you can see the gradient has actually started taking place, So all we have to do is it's now set to T2D U. We can simply set it to 2D circular, right? And now you can see now the outside is looking yellow and it's fading into silver, but we don't want that. So all we have to do is select this knot, this particular knot, select these two. I can hold shift to select the two, and you can see on the where the gradient is written, there's this arrow. If I click on the arrow, it opens up the whole details of the knot I've selected. So the interpolation is set to smooth. You can simply set it to step, and now it becomes like a heart. So now if I select one of the knots and drag it, you can see now it's controlling where should be gold and where should be silver. So I want it the other way around, so I'll make sure the black is rather this way, because it's the middle that is gold, right? So let's use the black. So that's basically how we've created our coin. So we are going to apply the same principle for the back as well. Now we've created our coin. So now let's do the same thing for the back. So in the back, I'll double click on the material. We are going to follow the same process, right? The color, let's actually first of all apply it to our object. Now you see it's taking over the whole object, even though we want it just at the back. So the same thing in here, we typed C1 for the front, the back it's capital C2 for the back, and now it's limited to just the back. If I turn to the front, you can see everything is fine, right? So now let's go into our first of all, change our projection from UVW to flat. Make sure it's set to texture mode, and you use the scale tool to scale it and get it to the way we want. And now we move back to model mode. Now double click our material, and in here we can simply drag. Okay, let me actually. We can simply, what we can also do is, instead of doing right click copy, we can also simply drag this particular thumbnail, drop it on the bump, text, and now you can see it's open up the bump. Now if I bring it on this one and leave it, you can see it's also done the same copying thing. So now I enable the bump. I can uncheck the color, and you can go into the texture and the same thing. Let's flip it. So the black point, we want it to be 1 and the white point to be 0, so that it pushes it out rather. So now that we've done that, let's actually reduce our bump to like 10. And now in the reflectance, let's go ahead and add our GGX. So I'll add GGX, and you have our silver material. So now the next is to go ahead and add our gold one. So I'll hold control and click and drag to create another copy, right? And we want the gold or all the gold to be the same, right? So what you can do is to double click on this particular gold. We can actually right click, set driven to actually drive this particular the next gold, right? If you want to use espresso, so that anytime we change this particular gold, the color or anything, it will affect this one as well. But I mean, that's a different topic for another day. So I can just right click on the color, and I'll say copy. So it copies the color. Double click on this one, and in the color, right click on it again and paste. And now we have the same color, right? So now you can see now the gold is actually the one taking over. So now let's use the silver. When I was duplicating, I actually duplicated backwards. So it's the same thing. So now let's make sure the silver is placed on it. No, first of all, we will duplicate. So hold control, click and drag this to duplicate it, so that when you apply this one, it will inherit all the changes we've done down here. We don't have to do it again. So now we've applied the silver material, and now we want it just on the outer part, right? So all we have to do is the same thing, double click on the silver material, because that's the one on the outer. So we come down to our alpha, check it, make sure alpha is on. Then you come into our textures and you choose gradient, go into the gradient, and now we choose from the type from 2D U to 2D circular. We select our knots. We make sure we open down, twirl down the settings in there, and now we select our knots. The two of them, hold shift to select the two, and I'll change it from smooth to step. And now if I select any of them and move it, no, I don't want to change the color, so I'll just drag it in here, and you can see we've done the same thing for the back as well. So now that's basically how the coin is created, and it's this simple. That's all we do. After that, you have to go ahead and add your light to actually catch the reflections, so that, because this one is just the viewport, but if I render, you can see it's not catching any reflection. There's no light or anything. This is the default Sigma 4D specular light. So but you have to add your light and stuff for it to catch reflection, so that it can look good when you render. So that's basically how I actually did the coin. Now, before I show how I did the same thing in Redshift, because the Redshift system is different from the way you do it in normal Sigma 4D, right? Before I show that, let me actually, I think I did a mistake at the back here. It wasn't like a big deal though, but so the bump in here, you can see it's actually being pushed inside instead of pushing outside. So what I actually did was that, because the cap C is actually facing out, there was no need for me to actually do the black point. So the bump in here, it was not necessary for me to change it to from 1 and 0. So I should have left it the way, so that it keeps pushing it out, because the cap C is actually the how do you call it, the normal is facing outside, so everything was okay. So there was no need for me to actually do it. So I did it, and you can see it was pushing it inside. So that's the thing I did. It wasn't like any big deal. So yeah, that was the only thing. Now let's go into Redshift, and Redshift has a completely different system. So I have this scene open here, which I have the coin in here. I'll actually bring in my Sigma 4D the render view, so that we see the Redshift render view. If I hit render, you can see now this is how the coin looks in Redshift. But let's see how the material is set up. And in the Redshift, I have the material node graph here, and it's just one material. It's all in one material. This particular RS material gold here, that's what's containing everything. Now, what I did in Redshift is that, so this particular gold is one material on its own. So if I actually connect it straight into our output, you can see now it takes over completely. So it's just gold out here. And if I do the second one down here, you can see it's just silver. So what I've done is that the same thing, the textures in the bump, I've connected it to the bump and everything, and it's pushing the bump, and it's fully silver and full gold material on the two different layers, right? And I've actually pushed it through a Redshift blend material. So the gold is the one, the gold is the base, the one controlling the base of the material blender. If I come in here, so the gold is controlling the base, and the layer 1 is the silver, this particular silver. All right, and now I'm using this gradient ramp, which I did the same thing instead of, and change the map into circular, right? So if I actually pipe in the gradient ramp into this thing, you can see how it looks. You see, that's the gradient ramp. So it's circular, and I'm using that one to where it's black, and using the black and white of the gradient to actually drive where the gold should show and white should show. So that's the same principle that I did in Sigma 4D, but in Redshift you can't stack several materials on an object. It wouldn't show, so you have to do it within the Redshift. So that's basically how I did the same thing in Redshift. It's not anything complicated. So basically the whole scene was just this simple setup. You know, everything was literally done in After Effects. The rest is just applying it to the channels that you want to apply it to, and do one or two things, and you have your coin well, model and everything looks clean and nice. Thank you for watching. I hope this video has been useful. If you learned anything, please kindly subscribe, comment, give me feedback, comment, and I'll really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.